Hello everyone, this is CY once again. I have recorded a video yesterday regarding the tasting difference between grinding at the lowest RPM and with this sieve actually to sieve out the finest coffee ground powder from the, the coffee grinded by this 3Bomber sort of baby EK kind of grinder. For today, I'm going to do something slightly different. Right, I'm going to just try the RPM. Right, basically to make a distinction. I hope I can pick up the difference. I'm going to do a test of the lowest RPM, which is about 1004, and I'm going to ramp up the grinder to 2000 RPM, and then I'm going to sieve. I'm still going to sieve it to see whether I can actually taste any taste. The purpose of the sieve is actually not to remove the fine grind powder, but it's actually to see whether during high RPM or low RPM actually I get more fine coffee powder. So that's the test, and I think I'll probably remove the fine coffee powder by sieving, so that I can from based on yesterday's test, I actually get a slightly better cup of coffee. The clarity is better, and it doesn't lose the body that much because I guess this batch of coffee bean has been roasted to medium, and hence the body is still there. And just that if I sieve out the fine coffee powder, it actually gives me a cleaner, definitely a cleaner and a sweeter cup as compared to the other one, which tends to be a little bit muddy, a little bit more muddy, and it just tends to lose the kind of a sweetness as compared to the one with the fine coffee powder being sieved out. Right, having said so I'm still going to do about 10 gram each. So the first grind, I'm going to grind at the lowest RPM of 1004. The second one, I'm going to do at 2000 RPM, and then I'm going to sieve, and then I'll try to measure to see whether I can actually measure the fine coffee powder that's being retained by this coffee sieve. And at the same time, I'm still using the same sieve as yesterday. So let's drop that, which is actually the finest one. Actually, I wish that if this one can be magnetized, would be even better, because sometimes I tend to forget that the bottom one is magnetized, right, but the top one isn't, right? So before that, let me just empty everything that's inside there, just from yesterday coffee. Right, so this is okay. Let's prepare 10 grams of coffee, and currently my grinder is set at the RPM of 1004, which is the lowest RPM. So let's measure 10 grams of coffee bean. Right, again, of course, this is the Yunnan coffee from our own roast, right? Yunnan red wine coffee series. So you haven't tried it, right? I strongly encourage to get one bag from us and give it a try. And the tasting note is tropical fruits, mango, red wine, and very high sweetness. Of course, this batch is medium, roasted to medium, so the sweetness tend to reduce a little bit, and it give you more body. And this particular batch I actually roasted for espresso, but of course you can do filtered coffee as well. So let's measure 10 grams of coffee. Right, that's about 10 grams exactly, between 9.9 to 10 grams. So later on, when I grind, I'll try to measure the fine coffee powder to see whether I can get anything from that. Switch on. Nothing coming out. Alright, so this is actually grinded at the lowest RPM of 1004. So now is the shaking time. So let's try to shake this up. Right, I'll shake for about 20 seconds. So based on my timing, it's just past 10 seconds. Right, so exactly 20 seconds. So let's see how much fine coffee powder there is at the lowest RPM. It should be very similar to what I have yesterday. Ooh, I have done something wrong. I've unscrewed the coffee and end up creating a mess on the table, right? So I should just be removing the bottom catch instead of doing this. Okay, so probably I'll redo this again. Right, so again, let me clean out the coffee from yesterday. So unscrew. This is magnetic, so just try to get rid of all the coffee. And let's screw this back. Right, so let's measure 10 grams. Okay, that's exactly 10 grams there. So same thing, I'm going to grind at the lowest RPM of 1004. Right, so after that, I'm going to give you a shake for about 20 to 30 seconds. So I think to be consistent, I'll probably shake it for, I think 20 seconds will be good enough. So I'm looking at the clock on my, okay, let's start shaking. Right, that's 40 seconds. Okay, let's check how much fine coffee powder I'm getting out. I can see that it's actually very, very minimal. Right, so let's try to see whether I can pick up anything. The fine coffee powder is actually 0.1 gram when I grind it at the lowest RPM of 1004. So, okay, let's empty this coffee into, okay, let me see. Okay, I tell you what, let me warm the cup first because I want to put the coffee ground inside the funnel. So let me warm both. I'll try to be more consistent and so that it's more accurate in terms of comparison. Right, so the first one is at 1400 RPM. Right, I'll be pouring away the fine coffee powder. Right, so next one I'm going to grind at 2000 RPM and see how it goes. So same thing, I'm going to measure 10 grams of coffee. By the way, the grind size is still at the lowest, at a setting of 6. Right, so that's exactly 10 grams of coffee. Yes, I'm still grinding at 6, which is actually pretty coarse. But I'm actually going to test later on when I grind finer. Alright, so let's ramp up the RPM to 2000. Right, let's hear the motor sound between 1004 RPM and 2000 RPM. This is at 1004. That is at the 2000 RPM. So this is the speed I'm going to grind these special beans, this special 10 grams. Oh, it's a lot faster. And I can see the fine coffee powder actually try to fly off from the catcher here. So let's shake it for again for 20 seconds. Right, let's start. Alright, so that's 20 seconds. Let's see how much coffee has been, how much fine coffee powder has been retained here. The retention is about the same, it's about 0.1 gram. So it does not really matter whether you grind at the lowest RPM setting or the highest RPM setting. And the reason why I choose these two settings is because if there's not much difference between the two extreme RPMs, then the fine coffee powder is probably not a factor affecting the quality of the grind, because it has been consistently producing 0.1 grams of fine coffee powder at the lowest and the highest RPM. So I can eliminate the fine grind powder later on just by shaking it, and I don't have to consider the fine grind powder in my future tests. Let's say if I want to keep the fine grind powder together when I make the filter coffee. Right, so let's pour this inside another V60 filter. Right, so right now my water temperature has dropped a little bit, so let's heat up the water temperature. And let's do 150 grams of water. Right, water is 96. I'll not let it bloom, I'll just straight away top up 150 grams of water. The coffee is roasted on 25th of December last year during Christmas period. So it has been about 3 to 4 weeks, coming to 3 weeks already. Alright, 151.3. So let's heat up the water. Move on to make the second cup. Same thing, I'm just going to top up water all the way to 150 grams. Ratio is 1:15 by the way, because I use 10 grams of coffee. I'll probably be getting another scale here so that I can actually do comparison between two cups, and actually I think that will be more ideal. I just wait for the water to flow down. Right, almost done. The total drawn down time is about 1 minute and about, I think, close to 1 minute 40 seconds. Right, I didn't wait for the total drawn down for the first one, so I didn't record the first time. Oh, it's still drawing down. So I think it's about 1 minute and 50 seconds. Yep, so that's about the total drawn down time for the cup at a higher RPM. So let's remove this. Right, and let's give it a taste to see whether I can actually taste a difference in terms of taste based on the lowest RPM of 1004 and the highest RPM of 2000 at a grind setting of 6, which is the same beans, same mass, same grind and same grind setting. The only difference here is the RPM. I have also sieved out both the fine coffee powder, which is amounting to about 0.1 gram for both situations. This is interesting. I can actually smell a slight difference in fragrance. Yep, I can safely say that the one that grinded at lower RPM actually give me a more robust smell, right? The smell of the floral smell and the winey smell of the coffee is richer and it's more robust in the cup at the lower RPM. Yep, definitely. The one with low RPM is definitely having a more robust and rich smell. Alright, so now let me go ahead and taste the coffee to see how it goes. Very clean. Yeah, it's a very clean cup. Okay, so now let me drink some water. Let me try the one with 2000 RPM. Oh, that's interesting. Oh. Huh. Now I understand why a manual hand grinder tend to fare better in terms of filter coffee. Yep, okay, so I'm going to draw the conclusion, right, based on my personal opinion, right, of drinking 2 cups, one at 1004 RPM, one at 2000 RPM. The 1004 RPM definitely give me a sweeter cup, and I can definitely taste a distinction between the taste of the coffee it's definitely much sweeter in this cup as compared to this cup, and it's pretty interesting. By the difference in RPM, I can actually pick up a difference in tasting notes. On a scale of 1 to 10, if let's say I'm able to get 7 to 8 in terms of sweetness and the richness of the smell, down here I'm only able to get about 6. So therefore, the difference of 2 level makes the coffee distinguishable, which means I can actually taste the difference between the 2 coffee. Right, exactly the same beans, exactly the same grinder, exactly the same grind setting. The fine grind powder has been removed. I've shake it for 20 seconds, and by just adjusting the RPM of the grinder, I'm able to do that. So this is really very interesting machine, which allows me to test the RPM versus the taste of the coffee. So I'm not too sure whether the RPM will actually make a taste impact on the espresso, but in terms of filter coffee, I'm pretty convinced. So right now, the next test will be more interesting. Which RPM will give me a better cup, right? So now I'm only comparing 1004 versus 2000. So I can now adjust maybe at between 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, all the way to 2000 and see which cup is the sweetest. And I may actually get my friend here. Maybe I can get Thomas here to do a blind shot. I'll label the cup underneath and let him rank which cup is the sweetest based on the RPM I've written down underneath the cup, and that will be very, very interesting. Right, so stay tuned for my next video. This is CY once again. If you're first time joining my channel, right, my channel is all about having fun making coffee, and yep, today we have fun making coffee with variable RPM, a baby EK sort of grinder, and yeah, the variation does make coffee making a lot more interesting because I can actually vary the different actually I can vary the setting on the grinder, and with the same beans I can actually have so many different things I can taste.